It's a 10-year-old project now that the Ali Asghar Water Appeal Project has been building, constructing and supplying water facilities to people in the downtrodden parts of the world. On the 12th of September 2021, 130 cyclists participated in London on a 100-kilometer ride. And
I would like to give the floor to our next lecturer. There is Hassan Shikor. He's a tutor in the University of Birmingham. Since 1997, Hassan Shikor has worked on both teacher and teacher trainer at eminent higher education institutions in a number of countries, including Pakistan, Oman, and the UK. His career began as a journalist. As a journalist, he has worked for the Frontier Post and as a senior news anchor at Business Plus, a satellite TV channel. He has delivered a lot of lectures and produced a lot of articles and programming on the philosophical underpinnings of Islam and the relationship between religion, culture, and the media. So Hassan, welcome. You have the floor. You have 10 minutes for your talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much, everyone, as well, for your attendance. I'm going to talk, as I was asked to, talk from the Islamic perspective on this subject of water and spirituality. And so I'm going to focus more on the spiritual. I'm going to try and focus on the spiritual aspect of it as best I can. The overview of what I hope to talk in the next 10 minutes is as follows. I'm going to briefly touch, in fact, I'm going to be touching briefly on all of these, not in much detail, I don't think. Common ground, water and its spiritual significance, what Allah in the Quran says, what the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam says, what Imam Ali alayhi salam says, the person who was appointed by Allah, informed to the Ummah after, to be the one to lead the Ummah after the Prophet. The other significance of water in Islam, I refer to briefly to the story of Hussein and his infant, and I will take you to a very practical scheme or project that's going on. It's called the Ali Asghar Water Appeal. And if I have time, I will make a blunt suggestion to inspire a appeal to at least the Muslim community. Now, before I proceed, there was a question asked somewhere here by, I forget the name now, about whether how much can the spiritual aspect be used to inspire communities to conserve water. It's very much so, I think, because individuals operate on a very intra-personal basis, and intrinsically they are thinking, and that needs to be triggered so that they can act. Of course, most of the time we end up tending to focus on the communities that may be chucking plastic in water sources, etc. And then, we say we need more education. But I think more than that, we need to try and check the big corp that is actually producing all that plastic and the one most responsible for pollution of our environment. So we need equal focus, if not more, on the big corp than the small man. Anyway, let's go to the common ground. Yes, as you've heard, even among the native North American couple presentations that you've heard, there is a lot common. Evolution, for example, there are many things we could say, but let's just focus for a second on evolution. It's very much common in Islam, in Christianity, Judaism, Shinto, Buddhism, Hinduism, etc. We also know from those of us who are a bit well-versant with the scriptures or holy books, we know about the Virgin Mary being asked to go to a place in the east, and then she'll find a tree, a date palm. She needs to shake it, so that she can get some sustenance in the form of dates. And then she's asked to hit a stick or rub her feet on the ground, and there would be water flowing forth. Likewise, in the case of times of Moses, we know about the 12 tribes water supply that was created when he put his staff and triggered a set of 12 streams. I went to Japan several years ago, and I was quite fascinated to see how common the Islamic style of ablution is, as the Shinto do when you want to, and the Buddhists as well, when you want to enter their shrines. It was so beautiful to see, and I actually did that practice. It was a great experience to see such a commonality in even beliefs, practices, or religions, if you will, that are apparently disparate. They're not, but that's how we've been made to understand. In Hinduism, we have the holy bathing that people do. So that we've got a lot of commonality across the world, and that's what we need to exploit. Now, if we take an example here, which is quite fascinating to me, Prophet Muhammad, I'm paraphrasing, said, "Do not wipe off the ablution water from your skin with a cloth. Let it dry on its own." And I've always wondered why. And several years ago, there was this report or study by Masaru Emoto, and he talks about the effects of positive words and thoughts on water. He does this experiment. Probably a lot of you are aware of it. And he sees how the water molecules change shape when there is a positive environment or there is a negative one. Now, scientists have said that is pseudoscience. If it is, fine. I think we need to do more research. But if it is true, which probably is, because I'm sorry, I don't yet know your name, so I'm just going to say the gentleman who was talking about they pray before they plant, they pray for rain and all of that. So these things do seem to have an effect on our environment. So it should have or would have an effect in water. And what I would ask is for more, in order to make individuals make a move. Like Maria said at the onset, people of faith take their time to become active about sorting things out in their environment, which is very true. So I think if we want to appeal to those kind of people, we need to put some scientific research in this aspect, whether water does change its molecular structure, if there is a positive prayer or a prayer being said. And then that makes me understand why the Prophet of Islam said, let the water absorb into your skin, because while you're performing your ablution, you would have been saying nice words, good prayer. So I think that's the kind of thing that would inspire people to be a bit more conscious of water conservation. All right, I'll proceed to the next slide. Now, while that's the common ground, let's focus on what the Quran says. The Holy Quran says, Allah in the Holy Quran says, have you not seen that Allah created the heavens and the earth in truth? So what basically he's trying to say here is that I created everything by way of justice. And what is being claimed in that is haqq, it's the truth. Now, why do I mention this? We'll see in the context of the following verses. You see, I've got this word Allah created written in blue, and then the words we send as well in the next verse from Surah Hijr, chapter 15, verse 22. Allah says, and we send the fecundating winds that cause the rain to descend from the sky, therewith providing you with water to drink. And it is not you who hold its reserves. Now, we might see here Allah being like a jealous God, and I don't intend blasphemy, but this is what some critics say. You've got a very jealous God. Now here, there's what I understand what he's trying to say is, you're not the one who owns these things, the systems of the world. I am the one who gave them to you for free. So be generous with them, and don't be arrogant when you walk on the back of the earth. So remain humble and share and be conscious that I created things with justice, and I gave provisions. I made provisions for your sustenance and your existence. So do not mess it up. You're not the one in control of them. Likewise, if you look at the second line of the second verse, and it is not you who hold its reserves. No, we can see from here that Allah has made, or God has made, provisions at least on the surface of the earth, on planet Earth, for containing water as a reservoir for us to go to draw water from, etc. Now, if we look at what's happening in India, for example, if we come to the practical aspect of it, what's happening with the Adivasi land, bauxite is being taken out, for example, and other minerals that then make the mountains porous. That means the water doesn't get retained in those reservoirs, and effectively they create floods. And then when there is no water in reserve, there is drought and what have you. So I think here we see that we are being reminded, because you see the Quran it calls itself, it's a reminder. So here it's constantly trying to remind us to preserve the earth, be conscious of the fact that we are here on a temporary basis and we don't own these things. So we must be careful so that others can have a right to the same things as well. There are further verses about the water cycle. It's reminding again about how the water cycle actually occurs. And Allah says, we sent rain down from the sky in perfect measure. And in another verse in Surah Zukhruf, it says, it is He who sends the winds, who sends down rain from the sky in perfect measure. So according to scientific facts, let's reconfirm if this is not truth, because there are so many figures that I was getting on the internet. At least 16 million, or approximately 16 million tons of water or vapor is exchanged every second on planet Earth. So you see, it's talking about a perfect measure, and I relate it with the fact of Allah saying here, I created the heavens and the earth in truth with justice. So you can see there is an equal perfect measure there. Proceeding, unfortunately, what we notice across the world, and like I said, I'm going to be straightforward, and this is with a positive intention. What I notice around the world is that when, for example, Muslims are performing their wudu, which is ablution in English, they waste a lot of water. Now, the Quran, the reminder is very, very clearly saying, wash your faces and your forearms to the elbows, wipe your heads and your feet to the ankles. He intends to purify you so that you can be thankful. But what we do is we run the tap at full blast, and that's a lot of water resource being wasted. And Allah again reminds people saying, "O children of Adam, eat and drink, but waste not." And I've posterized this so that we don't recognize the person at all. But if you might notice, there is the tap running while the person is performing his ablution. These basic things on an individual level need to be reminded to the people before we proceed with looking at the greater scheme of things. It's these small acts that are going to make a difference. One of the most fascinating hadiths or sayings of the Prophet that I know of is this one. And I think this is the tip of the iceberg, or it epitomizes the entire concept of water conservation. We don't need to import experts when you've been given such an amazing singular statement that is so meaningful. Do not waste water, even when you're performing ablution at a stream. I mean, this just reverberates if you think about it. Imam Ali alayhi salam said the next in line after the Prophet Muhammad, when the good doers will be rewarded on the day of judgment, the beginning will be made with those, i.e. beginning of giving the blessings will be given to those who serve water to a thirsty person. Now, this is the importance of conserving water, serving water, sharing water resources with other people that Imam Ali talked about. And even the Prophet said that anybody who serves water to somebody gets the blessings worth 72 ritual prayers that a person might make. Now, it may not necessarily be some exact mathematics of 72, but I think these kind of figures were used to inspire people to do good. Now, that takes me this bit here where the beginning will be made with those who serve water to a thirsty person. It takes me to an event in history, the other significance of water in Islam, where the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, along with his 72 companions, was martyred thirsty in the land of Karbala. And it was not only these men and children that were killed by the enemy, who had blocked his access to the river where the battle was taking place in Karbala. But they also murdered his infant with a three-pronged arrow. And what Imam Hussein was trying to do was take the child to the enemy to say, okay, you got a problem with me, fine. But this child, who was barely 6 months or a year old, an infant, at least give him some water. He hasn't had it, let's say, for a day, for 3 days, whatever the number. But in the thick of a desert, you can well imagine what level of thirst there would be. But they still murdered the infant. Now, this happened approximately 1400 years ago, but this infant, in even his in his helpless situation, what he's done is that he, along with his father, have both inspired what we call the Walk of Love, where every year about 15 to 20 million people walk from a city in Iraq, Najaf, where Imam Ali alayhi salam is buried, all the way to Karbala, which is about 85 kilometers away from it. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, along with his kid, is buried there. Just one slide, and I'm done. Now, this kid has inspired the Ali Asghar Water Appeal Cycling Sportive. It's a 10-year-old project now that the Ali Asghar Water Appeal project has been building, constructing and supplying water facilities to people in the downtrodden parts of the world. On the 12th of September 2021, 130 cyclists participated in London on a 100-kilometer ride, and they raised 116,429 pounds from around the world, and the money is going to be spent in Pakistan, Kenya, Afghanistan, as well as Gaza. So the spiritual aspect, the historical aspect of water and water-related events can be used to a positive degree. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you so much, Hassan, for your interesting presentation on the Islam tradition to water. Some perspectives, very interesting. First of all, remembering the sense of this common practice of adoption in many traditions, but also calling for people of faith to become active in environmental issues. That is very important. Yeah, or if all the traditions can have this possibility of inviting their participants to cooperate and to help to adapt to this new climate scenario, would be something really amazing and important and relevant. And just a final remark, you receive water for free and you need to give it for free. That is also an important message that may make us think on the way we are dealing with water and the market of the water and water as a commodity. So is that the right way to go? So many reflections can emerge from this thought. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan.